Today I want to turn your attention to a brief passage in Matthew chapter 4, verses 23 to 25. This is a summary of really what Jesus has been doing in the first couple chapters that we meet him in Matthew's gospel. And the verse for the day is Matthew 4, verse 23. Jesus went throughout Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and curing every disease and every sickness among the people. I know many of the people who watch these videos are older than I am, and those of you who are older than I am may be able to remember there were a series of movies that the actors Bing Crosby and Bob Hope did. They were on the road. You remember those? On the road to Zanzibar, on the road to all these different places, Morocco. And in a sense, Matthew is telling us that Jesus is on the road. And in these few verses, we learn that he's traveling all throughout Galilee and that people are coming. They say his fame spread throughout all Syria. And great crowds followed him from the Decapolis, which is the 10 cities which were to the east of Galilee, from Jerusalem and Judea and from beyond the Jordan. So Jesus is on the road, and he's drawing great crowds. He's impacting thousands of people, and thousands of people are now coming to Galilee to hear him. This is the preface, if you will, to the Sermon on the Mount, which is what immediately follows in Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7. But what I want to especially call your attention to today is that Matthew says there are three things that Jesus does consistently. And what are they? He's teaching in their synagogues, which means he's teaching the way of God, what we will come to know, what we know as the way of Jesus. He's teaching from the Hebrew scriptures in the synagogues. He's there within his own religious community, showing them from the scriptures, this is who God called us to be. This is how God calls us and commands us to live. But then he's also proclaiming the good news of the kingdom. And that I picture more as what Jesus is doing in the open air, as he's on the road, as he's traveling. He's telling people who aren't in the synagogue, who aren't at the center of his own religious tradition, about the good news of the kingdom of God, and that it is for everybody. And then the third thing we see Jesus doing is curing every disease and every sickness. And throughout this week, as we've been looking at different scriptures that touch on Jesus healing, this is yet again another statement that shows us that healing was at the heart of what Jesus does. So, teaching in their synagogues about the way of God from the scriptures, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and curing and healing. When you think about Jesus, remember, these are three of the core things that he does. And so part of what we're trying to do today as his disciples is let him continue to teach us, to be instruments in proclaiming the good news of the kingdom to others, and turning to Jesus when we need help and healing, believing that he can touch us and help us.